Everyone, happy Wednesday. And another cool topic to talk about, to share with you, and to get your input on what is going on in the housing market today. So that's what I want to talk about today and share with you some of the thoughts that were posted in some of the articles that I saw. And I wanted to kind of get your intake and your input about it. So the article that I have in mind that I want to share with you is from Fast Company. And this is what they're talking about. They're talking about housing market outlook for 2025. It's starting because you know why? Because we are now in the second part of the year, and they're starting to kind of come up with things and starting to think what could potentially be happening. I like it because I am also of the school of being proactive thought. And that's why I am starting to look at these things. So here's what we're talking about. They're talking about 8 different predictions. They're comparing different researches. And what they're talking about is the housing market has already begun shifting out of seasonal window when there's usually the most upward pressure on home prices and starting to move into the softer seasonal window. And yes, we actually do see that, some of that happening in August, which is coming up in just about a week. You'll see that people are vacationing, they're thinking about school, and a lot of people are focusing on that. Even if there's some month-to-month declines in the second half of 24, driven by softer markets in some areas, they're talking about around the Gulf. Most housing analysts are still expecting national home prices to finish 2024 with positive growth. This will mark the 13th consecutive year of positive national home price appreciation. So what are we talking about 2025? Here are what some of the marketing experts are talking about, and they're already making their predictions. And here's what we have. We have a couple of the guys here: Goldman Sachs, Wells Fargo, mortgage bankers, Morgan Stanley, Zelman, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and Moody, talking about in terms of what are the expectations of the prices going up in 2025. And as you can see, it's anywhere from 0.3% going all the way to 4.4%. And, I think it's actually very much on the conservative side, because what they're doing is they're looking at the whole country together, everything lumped together. And as we know, and of course I know because I am in the trenches, I'm in the industry, I'm watching the prices every day because this is what I do for a living. I can see that the prices and how things are jumping, whether we're still multiple offers, whether the markets are softening, is very much different depending on where you are, whether you are, it varies by neighborhoods, school districts, towns. So, and as you know, the average for real estate that is rising year after year, the average typically happens to be about 4%, which is very, very small. But it's, again, because real estate is a small and steady game. So this is what they're talking about. And looking out beyond 2025, Goldman Sachs believes that the national home price growth is measured by a Case-Shiller National Home Price Index is going to remain close to the historical annual average of about 4.5%, which is what we have seen since 1988 to about 2023. And as you know, different forecasters are using different indexes to kind of figure out and what they're looking at. So what Goldman Sachs is looking at is Case-Shiller Index. Moody is using something different. And what they're also talking about is the pandemic housing boom and following mortgage rates shock have stretched affordability relative to the incomes as well. Moody's is thinking unhealthy affordability will constrain near-term home price growth. Goldman Sachs believes that the lack of supply will outweigh affordability concerns. So as you can see, what they're looking at is, and some of their predictions that you can see how things kind of topped off going back to 2006, 2008, and then they dropped off going down to 2014. And this is that thread of what we're talking about. And of course, this is the gain from 2022 going all the way up to probably around the end of 2023 is what we're seeing. So I thought that was interesting. Even if the average national home price forecast for 2025 is correct, it's possible that some regional housing markets could see mild home price declines, while some markets could still see elevated appreciation, which has been, after all, the case this year. So, and the key metrics that they're talking about is active inventory months of supply, which is what we are also looking at to see that if we were to not put any homes on the market, how many months it would take to sell everything that is currently up for sale. Anything under 6 months is considered to be seller's market, where it's tighter inventory, which means that sellers are in control and can dictate a lot of the terms, and buyers are going to have to be a lot of times running around looking for homes. And anything over 6 months is where it's considered to be 6 months is stable market, and then over 6 months is considered to be a market where it's going to be more sellers on the market than buyers, which means that buyers are going to be in control. And as you can see, what I thought was interesting in this graph is they're starting to show some of the softening in the markets, and that's what they were talking about as the Gulf area, right? Like Louisiana, we have some softening that they're showing in the Florida Panhandle. Then you can see also, of course, the Gulf area of Florida as well, and of course parts of Texas as well. So that looks like a little bit of I think Houston, potentially, maybe even Austin in some other areas. So I thought that was interesting. And what they were also talking about is they were also making sure that they are comparing apples to apples, because the indexes that they're using are varied. Goldman Sachs, for example, forecasts for the Case-Shiller home price index, while Freddie Mac is forecasting for Freddie Mac house price index, and Moody's is for the repeat sales. So this is, I thought this was interesting, just to kind of share with you the fact that, let me just stop sharing this now and bring you back, is the fact that the projections are coming out, and I think I'm going to see more of them, and they're going to change as we head into the third quarter. And of course, the fourth quarter is where we're going to have elections. This is where people are getting even more strategic as well as cautious, because they're kind of pulling back because they want to see what happens during the elections, how the change in government is going to affect things, which, by the way, I did a video that you will find on my channel to see truly, do elections actually affect the market? And we're talking about the general market, not just the housing, but also the stock market, and how is that affected? And it was interesting because there was a research that was done, and they looked at various, whether they're regional, local, or national elections, to see how they affected the stock market. And overall, what they have determined, that it wasn't the elections that affected the stock market, but more so some other historical events, such as 9/11 and really bad weather and natural disasters, things like that, is what affected the markets a lot more than the actual political events. So this is kind of what we're seeing right now. And what I can tell you is that although I do pay attention on what is being forecasted on a national level, what I would rather do is put those projections aside and saying, okay, great, I am aware of them, I'm being mindful of them. But what I prefer to actually do is, because I'm in constant communication with other agent partners around the country, and I talk to them on a regular basis because they are right there in that market on the regular basis. And I ask them, hey, how are things going in Florida? Because as you know, Florida is a number one destination for many who are retiring. And also what happened during the pandemic is a lot of people who had the money and the funds that were still actively working, not the baby boomer generation, is they decided to head out to Florida and live there, just move there because of the weather and because they were able to work remotely. So Florida saw influx of people, and now there are some challenges that are happening there because of the overpopulation that a lot of people are not thinking about. So I like to talk to my agent friends and partners that I work with there to find out how are things going in the state. And I don't lump it together because I understand that even in a small and skinny state as Florida, things are going to be very different, whether it's in Tallahassee area on the Panhandle or whether it's going to be in Miami, Fort Lauderdale area. That's going to be very different. So I like to compare. I want to know what's going on the Gulf side. I want to know what's happening around Jacksonville. How does that compare to Miami? And we talk about all these things. And some of those agents are seeing the changes, like what was mentioned in that article in the condo market in Florida. Yes, some of these things are actually happening. And then I also talked to my friends in California, because typically California and Florida markets is where a lot of the changes in housing markets start to happen. And what we also like to track are the new construction. The new construction, the new build, as soon as that is slowing down and we can see the significant changes in what is happening, that is how we know that potentially the market is shifting and where is it going. And how do we know? We talk to the builders. I talk to the builders on a regular basis. Some of them that are building new construction that is specifically for older population, for our seniors, that is 55 and older with the restricted, with the age restriction, and some regular builders that are building regular new construction as well. So we're talking about different, staying mindful and getting the information and understanding what is happening in different parts of the country is better being informed on what is happening in those markets. How are things going in Texas? How are things happening? What is happening in California? What is happening in Tennessee? And then we always talk about all those things. And actually next month, I'm going to be heading to a conference to meet with a lot of my agent partners in Texas. I'll be in Austin, and this is where we all catch up together. And this is a highlight of our conference. And I really, truly enjoy going for the reason is because I actually get to see them face to face. And this is what we talk about. What are some of the challenges that you're seeing? How are the sellers doing? What are you seeing? What are you getting? How are the buyers doing? And what are you seeing in the new market? Are we slowing down? Are we picking back up? Do you still have multiple offers? What is the appreciation rate that you're seeing in your area, which is going to be vastly different than where I'm located? So this is what's important to me. And what I can tell you what's happening in our area, and I am in what's called the Delaware Valley, which is between servicing New Jersey as well as Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, New York City metro area, is what I can tell you is that what I am seeing here is a very robust and a pretty stressful market yet. We're still seeing a great appreciation where homes that are priced well, and what I mean by that is anything from starting out to $300,000 all the way up to $800,000 and $900,000 and higher. All of them are seeing very robust marketing time that's very short, multiple offers in many situations. And then there's also, of course, with multiple offers, what we're seeing is above asking prices. So, and here's what I want you to think about. And this is what I'm being mindful, because these are the conversations that I have with many clients, and I'm not sure where it's going and how long it's going to go this way. All we can do is just kind of watch and analyze what's happening. Is this with the appreciation and the increase in the pricing, the way the market prices that are jumping, and I'll give you an example. A house that was on the market, I'm just thinking about a few of the transactions that I've had recently and the kind of the surrounding sales that I was using it based on, was that the comparable that we used to price the home that we just put on the contract over the weekend, the starting price for that home was $350,000, which is a very good price. It is now a starting price for first-time home buyers. It is the entry point for a lot of first-time home buyers in the area that this particular house is. The house had multiple offers because it was in good condition. It had a garage, a really good space in the backyard. The final sale price was $410,000. So as you can see now, it automatically now increased to a completely new $400,000 price range. Now the $410,000, once that property settled and that price was recorded in our multiple listing service, on Zillows, on Redfins, on Realtor.coms, everywhere online where it matters. Now the $410,000 becomes the new normal for that neighborhood, for that street, for that size home. So where we came in because we needed to sell our house for our clients is I'm looking at this as a direct comparable when I am doing my research and my homework for my clients to determine the best optimal price for them in their home. Their home was bigger. It had an extra garage. So what we decided was to price their home at $420,000 roughly. And we were on the market for 1 week. And then as soon as we had a flurry of activity, and then after having 5 offers on the table, my clients chose an offer of around $450,000. Okay. So here's what I want you to think about from the perspective of buyers. In a short period of time, we're talking about probably good 4 months, if that. The prices on that street in that neighborhood for that style home, similar square footage, has increased for $350,000 now to a new normal, which is going to close in a month or two, to a new normal of $450,000. That is an increase of $100,000. So now someone else in another month or two may be interested in selling their home. And when they're going to be doing their research, they're going to see that the new normal is going to be $450,000. And the question is, maybe you can jump in and give me your food for thought, is where is that going and how long is it going to increase by that much? Because as you know, cost of living adjustment last year was only 3.2%. Our salaries don't increase by 20 or 30%. They don't. So the affordability that a lot of people are talking about is a challenge in many, many markets. And it's also challenging for first-time home buyers who have steady jobs, but they may not make a lot of money. And then whether they're able to afford a home at $300,000 or $350,000, now they're at a point where they don't make enough because they don't qualify for that new normal of a home that they potentially could have afforded even 6 months ago, because the new normal, as we discussed, is now $450,000. So these are the challenges that I am seeing. And I'm honestly feel bad for some of the first-time home buyers that are looking for some things in the lower price points, because those lower price points just don't exist anymore. $200,000, $250,000, $300,000. In many places, those prices don't exist anymore. We just keep going up. The prices keep on increasing. And that is what we're seeing. So it'll be interesting to see as we're heading into if we are in our third quarter, and then we're going to go head into our fourth quarter and see how things are going to slow down. As you know, the market typically does slow down when the school is back in session. People kind of buckle down. They also are all back from vacations. And also, of course, with the upcoming elections, things usually slow down because people want to take a step back and see how things are going. And things usually in the housing market usually slow down for the holidays. Typically, sometime in November or December, everybody's eating, everybody's shopping, and getting together for a couple of the holidays that we have in those 2 months. And then things, of course, start to pick up again in January and February. And a lot of the times things really pick up after Super Bowl. As soon as that game is played, we figure out who won, who is happy, who is not happy. Then they're like, okay, great. Now this is over. Now we're heading into a spring market, and then we're back on track with running around. So this is what I foresee happening. I'm going to be watching things carefully. Things also get updated as the consumer price index gets updated as well on a regular basis. They do publish their reports every month, and I do watch that closely because if you guys are not aware, but the housing piece of that big pie of the consumer price index is a very big percentage of the overall puzzle, as I would call it. So I'm watching it very carefully because the housing market does have a very heavy and direct effect onto the overall price index. And of course, with the price index, we're looking at the cost of cars and insurance. I was just looking at it yesterday, and the cost of insurance went up by 21%. 21%, which is crazy. And of course, the cost of food, all of us are seeing it, and all of us are definitely feeling it. So that's what I wanted to share with you. And just wanted to see if anybody has any questions. We're starting to see, this is what today's update is for you about, is what we're starting to see are the predictions on some of the experts are starting to talk a little bit about what they think is going to happen in 2025, because we are now in the month of July and we're now heading into the second part of the year. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. And any questions that you guys have, I'm more than happy to answer them. All right. Well, if no other questions, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you had a great day and a great beginning of your week, and you're going to continue to have a great rest of your week. And I'm sure I will see you again next week. And do let me know if there's some interesting topics or interesting articles that you found that you would like to share, that you want to talk through. I am always game. I'm always interested. So please reach out and let me know. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.